Hi, I'm Nate, 31, and 3 weeks ago my dad told me I'd never needed help. That line keeps replaying in my head like a bad song you can't turn off. It started at my brother's graduation, one of those suburban spectacles where the champagne is cheap but the pride is expensive. He walked across that stage a semester late, his tassel crooked, our parents cheering like he'd cured cancer. When the ceremony ended, Dad clapped him on the back, said, "You did it, son," and tossed him a key fob with a grin. A brand new Tesla waited outside, gleaming in the sunlight like a trophy. Everyone gasped. Cameras flashed. Mom cried. And me. I stood there holding a paper plate of sheet cake, wondering what I'd done wrong by finishing college on time. Dad noticed my face. "Don't look so shocked," he said, laughing. "You've always been independent, Nate." He needed the boost. Independent. The word tasted like metal. I smiled, said congratulations, pretended I didn't hear the whisper behind me from Aunt Shauna. "Nate never got a car, did he?" "Nope, not a car, not even dinner out when I graduated. I'd worked through college, paid rent with tips from a pizza place that reeked of dough and bleach, graduated with honors, and started my own design firm. My reward was a pat on the back and a framed photo that still hung crooked in their hallway. That night, after everyone left, I sat outside on the porch, watching my brother drive the Tesla up and down the cul-de-sac like he was test driving success. The headlights cut through the dark. My father's laughter floated through the open window behind me loud, easy, proud. And then, by sheer accident, I found the punchline to my own humiliation. A week later, while filing taxes for my small business, I got a notice from the DMV about registration paperwork. The car was under my name, not Dad's, not my brother's, mine. At first I thought it was a clerical error. I called the dealership. They confirmed it. Nate Porter, primary owner of a $90,000 Tesla Model Y. My address, my tax liability. My pulse went hot. Dad hadn't bought my brother a car. He'd bought it through me to dodge the taxes. I drove straight to their house, that same familiar brick facade I'd helped repair last summer when Dad's back went out. He opened the door wearing his old fishing cap, completely unbothered. "Hey kiddo, everything okay?" I held up the letter. "You used my name for the Tesla." He squinted at it. "It's just paperwork. You know how these things go." "No, I don't," I said. "You told everyone it was a gift for Luke. But it's under my name. That means I pay the taxes, the insurance." Dad sighed, like I was overreacting about spilled milk. "You make more than your brother, Nate. You can afford it. You don't need the help." That line again. Like fairness was a luxury I couldn't claim. I laughed once, quietly. "So, you used me to give him a gift I never got." He crossed his arms. "It's all family, son. What's yours is ours." Mom stepped in then, voice soft but sharp. "Nate, don't make this about money. We're proud of both of you, both." The word cracked something inside me. I looked at the two of them, her clutching her tea mug like a peace treaty, him looking at me like I was the problem, and realized I was standing in a house built on favoritism disguised as love. I left without slamming the door. But the silence I took with me was louder than any argument. That night, I canceled the registration, sent the plates back with a note that read, "Wrong owner." Then I transferred the title to a holding company I created in 5 minutes online, one they couldn't touch. When the dealership called to confirm, I felt the strangest thing. Not anger, not revenge, just a clean, cold clarity. They'd spent years teaching me that independence meant doing everything alone. So I finally took them at their word. When they call now, I let it ring. When Mom texts, "Can we talk?" I stare at the screen until the message fades into silence. The house, the car, the fake fairness, it's all noise. And I'm done being the echo. It's funny how family silence has a rhythm to it. For 3 weeks, nothing, no calls, no messages, no guilt-laden voicemails about how I'm misunderstood. Then one Tuesday, at exactly 9:07 a.m., Dad's number flashed across my phone while I was sketching blueprints for a client. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail that started calm and ended with static. "Nate, we need to fix this nonsense with the car. Your mother's upset. Your brother's confused. You're making things difficult." I deleted it halfway through. By the next morning, I was getting texts from Luke. "Bro, why'd you cancel the registration? They're saying it's causing problems." Then another. "Dad's pissed. He says the car's basically mine anyway. Can you just refile it? He said he'll cover the tax later. I could practically hear him chewing cereal while typing that, completely oblivious that the tax later part meant never. I replied, no. If it's yours, he can put it in your name. He left me on read. I went back to my drafting table. Tried to drown out the ache in my jaw from clenching it so tight. My clients thought I was this calm, focused architect, meticulous, detail-driven, always composed. But if they'd seen me that week, pacing my apartment, laughing bitterly at the sound of my own restraint, they'd know better. See, this wasn't just about the Tesla. It was about 20 years of being the family's shock absorber. Every crisis bounced off me. Every debt, every broken appliance, every emotional explosion. I was the one who smoothed it out so no one had to look at the cracks. And then the day I stopped smoothing, they acted like I'd thrown a grenade. Friday night, Mom finally broke the standoff. She called from the kitchen. I could hear the clatter of dishes, the hum of that same old refrigerator I'd repaired twice. Nate, honey, she said, this has gone too far. It's embarrassing. Your father's name is on the line. We just need you to put it back the way it was. Embarrassing for who? I asked. She hesitated. For all of us. You're making family look bad. I nearly laughed. Mom, he used my name to buy Luke a car. I didn't make the family look bad. He just finally got caught doing it. She sighed, that long, tremulous sigh that used to undo me as a kid. You've always been so stubborn, Nathaniel. We just want things to be peaceful again. Peaceful. Their favorite word for pretend nothing happened. When the call ended, I stared out the window of my apartment. Below, the city pulsed, honking, glowing, alive. I'd worked 10 years to afford this place. Paid every cent myself. And yet somehow, in their eyes, I was still the kid they could draft into any scheme because he never needed help. I poured myself a drink and opened the folder that had been sitting on my desk for days, the deed paperwork for my bus. Innes. I made a few quick adjustments, removed Dad as my emergency contact, updated my beneficiaries, locked down my accounts. The way I saw it, if I was going to be treated like the adult scapegoat, I might as well have the protection of one. The next week, Luke showed up at my office. No text, no warning, just him, standing in the lobby wearing sunglasses indoors like he'd seen it in a music video. Hey man, he said when I came out. Can we talk? He looked nervous. Which was new. We sat in the break room. He kept glancing around like I might have cameras. Dad's losing it. Says you're trying to humiliate him. I raised an eyebrow. By not paying his taxes. Luke frowned. You know what I mean. You could have just talked to him. I did, I said. He told me what's mine is his. He rubbed his jaw, eyes flicking down. He didn't mean it like that. Then how did he mean it, Luke? Because it's starting to sound like you all only love me when my name helps on a form. That shut him up. For the first time in years, my brother actually looked small. I didn't know it was in your name, he said quietly. I swear, I believed him. But that didn't fix it. You've got the car, I said, standing up. Enjoy it while you can. But if Dad tries to register anything under me again, I'll file for fraud. His eyes widened. You wouldn't. Try me. That weekend, the silence came back. No calls, no texts. Just a void that, honestly, felt cleaner than any conversation we'd ever had. I started sleeping better. Ate breakfast without checking my phone. My shoulders dropped an inch closer to normal. It was like my body had been bracing for a storm that never came. Then, on Sunday, Mom sent a final message. Your father says you've changed. I think you've finally grown cold. I stared at it for a long time before replying. No, Mom. I just stopped confusing love with debt. I hit send, locked my phone, and let the silence finally count as peace. Asterisk. It's strange what fills the quiet after you hang up on family. You think you'll miss the noise, the Sunday phone calls, the updates about who got promoted or who's just so proud of Luke. But you don't. What you miss is the version of yourself that still believed they'd ever treat you differently. By the third week of radio silence, I almost convinced myself it was over. Then the letter arrived. It came in one of those heavy white envelopes that looks too official to throw away. My father's handwriting, blocky and self-assured, the kind that thinks it can't be wrong. Inside, a typed document that made my blood turn to static. He transferred the Tesla loan into my credit profile before the registration cancellation processed, which meant the finance company thought I defaulted. The letter was a notice of missed payment, and under it, a sticky note from Dad: "Can you just handle this? You've always been good with paperwork." No apology, no warning, just the assumption that I'd keep cleaning up his mess. I sat there at my desk for a long time, the note trembling in my hand. Then I laughed. It started quiet, more disbelief than humor, but it grew until I was bent over, gasping. My coworkers looked at me like I'd lost it. Maybe I had. That night, I poured whiskey into my coffee mug and spread every piece of evidence across my kitchen counter: the dealership invoice, the title transfer, the emails. I took photos, organized them by date, then walked myself through the logic. For years, I'd built blueprints for a living clean, precise, measurable. But my family operated like a demolition crew: no rules, just wreckage. And for the first time, I wasn't going to rebuild for them. The next morning, I drove to the finance company. The clerk behind the counter was polite in that I'd seen everything kind of way. She looked at the paperwork, tapped her keyboard, and frowned. "Sir, it says the purchase was authorized by you." "I never signed anything," I said, sliding my ID across. "That's my father's signature. We share a last name." She compared the two, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, this looks forged." She lowered her voice. "You could file a fraud report. It'll protect your credit." "And I know," I said. "File it." As she typed, I felt something unclench in my chest. A decade's worth of swallowed words. He didn't mean it. He's just old-fashioned. Family first. Finally exhaled. I walked out into the parking lot, the sun hitting hard, and realized I wasn't shaking. I'd expected guilt, but there was none. Just relief. That night, I emailed my father. No flourishes, no emotion. Just this: "Dad, you signed for a car under my name without consent. The finance company has confirmed the signature was fraudulent, and the case is now under review. I've removed myself from any associated accounts. Please don't contact me again." "Nate," he replied within 10 minutes. "Unbelievable. After everything I've done for you." That was it. His entire defense. I didn't respond, but 2 days later, my mother called from a blocked number. Her voice was trembling, not with fear, but with practiced sadness. "Nate, do you really want to destroy your father's reputation over a misunderstanding? He forged my name. It was just to help Luke get started. Then he can help him with his own name. You're being cruel." That word hit like a slap. Cruel. As if honesty was violence. "Mom," I said, voice flat, "I'm not punishing him. I'm protecting myself." She started crying then, soft and wet, the sound of someone trying to weaponize pity. "We raised you better than this." "No," I said. "You raised me to stay quiet." I hung up. Blocked her to dot. The next week, texted me again. A picture of the Tesla on a tow truck. His message reading, "They took it. Happy now." I almost replied, almost. But instead, I put my phone face down and took a long walk. For once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Because the truth was, I hadn't taken anything from them. I just stopped giving them permission to use me. And when I passed a dealership later that night, bright lights reflecting off new cars, I didn't feel envy. I felt ownership of myself. Finally, fully. The Tesla was gone. The silence was back. And this time, it wasn't punishment. It was peace. The thing about cutting off contact is that it doesn't end with the silence. There's the echo that follows relatives, friends of friends, even old neighbors who suddenly just want to check in. They pop up like weeds after rain. Their voices carrying versions of your story you don't recognize. In my version, I protected myself from fraud. In theirs, I turned on my family over a car. By month 2, I'd started hearing the whispers through mutuals. Dad had been telling anyone who'd listen that I'd gone corporate, that success had made me arrogant. Mom said I was struggling mentally and needed prayer. Luke posted a story captioned "Family means forgiveness" over a photo of him and Dad on a fishing boat, conveniently omitting the fact that I'd been the one who bought the outboard motor for that boat last year. It would have been funny if it didn't sting. But I'd learned something new about pain. It doesn't always demand to be felt. Sometimes, it just wants to be understood. I started therapy again, my 3rd attempt in as many years, this time with a counselor who specialized in family systems. During the intake session, she asked why I was there. Because my dad bought my brother a Tesla under my name, I said. She didn't blink. What does that represent to you? I laughed once, quietly. Everything, she nodded. Let's start there. It was the first hour in my adult life where I spoke without defending myself. I told her about growing up with a father who praised self-reliance only when it benefited him. How every compliment from my parents had a receipt attached. How you're responsible had always meant you'll clean this up later. When I left her office that day, the air felt different. Lighter, but also raw, like the first deep breath after you've been holding it for years. By then, the fraud case was still pending, and I figured that would be the end of it. But families like mine don't end quietly. They regroup. They plot the sequel. I got a call from an unknown number one Thursday morning. It was a man from the finance company's fraud department. Mr. Porter, he said, we've concluded our review. The vehicle loan has been voided under identity misuse. You're cleared of any liability. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. Thank you. He paused. For what it's worth. The dealership says your father insisted you knew. Said you were being petty. I almost laughed. That sounds like him. He hesitated. You might want to check your credit report. Someone attempted another joint application last week, same address, different item. A home improvement loan. My hands went cold. A week later, I had the confirmation in my inbox. My parents had tried to take out a loan to remodel their kitchen using my social security number. Again, I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. I just called my lawyer. That's when everything changed. She told me calmly, Nate, this is a pattern of financial abuse. We can file a cease and desist and place a fraud alert across all your accounts. You can even get a restraining order if they keep attempting to use your information. It sounded dramatic. Restraining orders were for stalkers, not parents. But then I remembered the sticky note, you've always been good with paperwork. That was the moment I realized what they really meant. You've always been good at making our problems disappear. Not anymore. I filed every document, froze every line of credit, locked every bank account tighter than a submarine hatch. Then I called the last person I hadn't yet confronted, Luke. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, he said, voice guarded. Hey, I replied. I need to ask you something. He exhaled. If this is about the car, it's not, I said. It's about Mom and Dad trying to take a loan out in my name last week. He was silent. Did you know? I asked out another pause. Then, softly, they said you'd forgive it. Of course they did. They said you wouldn't want to ruin the family. I closed my eyes, my jaw tightening. I didn't ruin it, Luke. I just stopped subsidizing it. He didn't answer. Listen, I said, calmer now. You don't owe them your life either. You can love them and still say no. That's what they never taught us. He sniffed once, like he might be crying but didn't want me to hear it. They're gonna hate you for this, maybe, I said. But I'm finally okay with not being their favorite if it means I can sleep at night. I hung up before he could respond. That night, for the first time in years, I cooked dinner in my own kitchen without glancing at my phone every few minutes, expecting a crisis call. I ate slowly, in silence, and realized something I'd never noticed before. My peace wasn't quiet. It hummed, softly, steadily, like an engine that finally ran without someone else behind the wheel. I wish I could tell you everything ended neatly, that Dad called to apologize, that Mom sent a long, trembling message about how proud she really was, that Luke finally saw the family for what it was. But stories like mine don't tie themselves up with bows. They just end differently. It's been 6 months. The fraud investigation closed in my favor. My credit's safe. The restraining order went through quietly. The sheriff's deputy told me it was one of the calmest he'd ever delivered. I just nodded, said figures, and shut the door. That sounded exactly like my father. My therapist says closure doesn't come from their apology. It comes from the space where you stop waiting for one. I didn't understand that until I woke up one Saturday and realized I hadn't thought about them for 2 days straight. 2 whole days. I'd made breakfast, gone for a run, even laughed out loud at some terrible reality show, without the background hum of resentment. That's the day I drove out to the coast, out the same highway where Dad used to teach me to drive, his hand gripping the wheel from the passenger seat, saying, "Ease up, Nate. You're overcorrecting." I laughed out loud, remembering it. Because that's what I'd been doing my whole life, overcorrecting. Trying to keep the family car from swerving off the moral road, while no one else even touched the wheel. The ocean was empty that morning, gray and huge. I parked by the cliffs, the wind tearing through my jacket, and just stood there until my fingers went numb. And for the first time, I said it out loud. I forgive you, but I'm not coming back. No audience, no echo. Just me, the wind, and a seagull that looked mildly unimpressed. A month later, I got a letter from Luke. Handwritten, and even. The kind of writing you do when you're not sure what to say. Nate, they're mad at me now. I told them I won't co-sign anything ever again. Dad says I'm turning into you. I told him I hope so. The car's gone. I sold it, paid off the last bit myself. I took a job out of state. I just wanted you to know that maybe you were right. Maybe independence isn't selfish. Maybe it's the only way to stop drowning. I hope we can talk someday, just us, without all the noise. Luke sat there staring at that note for a long time. Then I folded it neatly and slipped it into my desk drawer. Next to my first client contract, the two pieces of paper that proved I could build something from nothing and still walk away without bitterness. Sometimes I still catch myself driving past their house when I'm back in town. The porch light's always on. Mom's flower pots line the steps like they used to. From the outside, you'd never guess what lived behind those windows, a lifetime of quiet transactions dressed up as love. But I don't stop anymore. I don't need to, because now, when people ask about my family, I don't flinch. I just say, we don't talk much. And then I change the subject to work, to the ocean, to the future I'm actually part of. Independence used to feel like punishment. Now it feels like oxygen. My dad once said I never needed help. He was wrong. I needed a reason to stop earning love that was never for sale. And somewhere between the canceled registration, the fraud report, and the sound of the ocean swallowing my forgiveness, I found it. The silence he left behind didn't break me. It made room for my own voice.